after one of their workers is killed, and police say the suspect is her husband.
You can get it. Dwight Lewis, I'm talking to you. I swear to God, I'll have my nephew bring me to your motherfucking house and I'll beat ass because you know you don't want these
When the wife of a church elder was discovered to be gay, he panicked and murdered her to cover up his secret. But the lover of the elder has finally spoken out about the affair, and what they had to say was shocking. This was a tragic and shocking tale that left the entire community rocked. Indeed, it was something horrifyingly extraordinary, especially for the usually quiet suburb of Kansas City. But in order to fully understand what had happened and why the lover of the church elder had spoken out, we need to go back and explore what happened in the lead-up to this explosive outburst. Tanisha Harris was a 38-year-old woman who I certainly had a zest for life. She was a passionate and interesting person who, among many other amazing qualities, was very devoted to her faith and to the church. She was married to a man named Robert Lee Harris Jr., who was 8 years her junior. Still, the two of them were very well suited, and they were, seemingly, the perfect couple. As they both held their faith in very high regards, they were both deeply involved in their local church. Tanisha was an associate pastor, and Robert was a church elder. When not at church, Tanisha worked at a bank, and Robert in a hospital. Much of what they earned, they donated to their church, something that both of them were happy to do. They even had daughters from their previous marriages, girls that both Tanisha and Robert accepted and loved as if they were both their own. Being a very active person on social media, Robert would share many religious posts on there, as well as going live to call on his friends, family, and followers to join him in prayers, something that he did daily.
I just want to spend just a few minutes with you in prayer concerning healing. I'm on my way to work, but I'm definitely going to pray to.
But what Tanisha didn't know was that there was so much more to her husband's life than she could have ever imagined. The day that things all changed was just like any other, and clocked out of her work at an Overland Park bank for lunch at 11:44 a.m. on January 8th, 2018, just like she had countless times before. But what was unusual about this particular day was that she never came back. She went home, at which point it seemed as if she and Robert got into some kind of argument. The apartment manager was so concerned, they called the police to report the argument that was still ongoing. The police arrived on the scene quickly and made their way up to Tanisha and Robert's apartment. When they arrived there, they found that Robert was home alone, and there was no sign of any argument going on. Without a basis to continue searching the property or to question Robert, they soon left and went about their duties. But only a few hours later, the authorities received another call, this time from Robert himself, saying that Tanisha had gone missing and that he was extremely worried about her. Once again, the police were quick to respond. People didn't just go missing, let alone fine and upstanding people in the community. It was immediately obvious that this was out of the ordinary and needed investigating. However, when police came to speak to Robert about Tanisha's disappearance, they noticed several things in the apartment that they had previously missed. Things that told a pretty grim and violent story. Also, Robert was acting somewhat suspicious and evasive. This told the experienced cops that he seemed to know more than he was willing to let on. But what was it? And what were the answers? These two questions led police on a wild ride in search of Tanisha and the truth. Firstly, they focused on what was found in the home. There was broken glass on the floor, as well as a few bloodstains. It was clear that someone had tried to clean them up, but missed some areas. Police gathered what they could and took it as evidence. They were not ready to accuse Robert of anything yet, but they certainly suspected him, though they had no idea what he may or may not have done. When they visited Robert for a second time later that same day, they found that things didn't quite look the same.
Police arrived. They did a sweep through of the house and noticed an area rug that had been in the living room when they visited in the afternoon had been moved beneath the dining room table. When they lifted the rug, they found more red stains and pieces of broken glass.
Ultimately, Robert's guilt got the better of him, and he admitted to killing Tanisha and dumping her body in a field a few miles away.
Local church is devastated after one of their workers is killed, and police say the suspect is her husband.
The church told us he also worked.
An autopsy revealed that she had been beaten, but that the ultimate cause of her death was strangulation. He was immediately arrested and placed in jail with his bond set at $1 million. But what was his motive? Why had he killed her, a woman he was supposed to love? Well, that was something that the police would soon uncover.
There was literally no sign that would indicate that there was any trouble.
Robert soon ended up in court, charged with Tanisha's murder. There was a fair amount of evidence against him, but prosecutors still called up members of Tanisha's family and their shared friends to talk about Robert and Tanisha's relationship and any misgivings that they might have had about it. And, as could have been predicted, everyone stood up and expressed their shock at Tanisha's death, but they defended Robert and his character. One of the other people who testified in court was Robert's boss at the hospital, who confirmed that Robert was not present at work on the day of the murder. But it was one testimony in particular that would change the course of the case and blow things wide open. It would start to help the authorities join the dots and understand what was going on in Robert and Tanisha's troubled relationship. And that testimony was from a man named Stephen Jr., a man who claimed that he and Robert had been romantically involved. Stephen Jr. was someone who attended the same church as Robert and Tanisha. He had been nothing more than someone else in the congregation until he and Robert had started to get a little closer over the months. They first became friends, but eventually that friendship blossomed into something more romantic and sexual. Of course, not only was this infidelity something that would have torn Robert and Tanisha's marriage apart if it came to light, but it also went against the teachings of the church. But Stephen was proud of his sexuality and was quite open about being a homosexual. And when rumors eventually started to surface about him and Robert being in some kind of relationship, Stephen didn't deny them, and even straight up confirmed them in some cases. It was by doing this that Tanisha found out about the relationship and confronted Robert about it. The confrontation clearly ended in violence and bloodshed, and as a result, Tanisha lost her life. Sadly, what Robert didn't know was that the secret was already out, and murdering Tanisha would have no effect on that fact whatsoever. According to Stephen, on the morning of the incident, Robert visited him only an hour after the police had first visited his house. He had not been expecting Robert, so to see him at his front door was a pleasant surprise. Stephen invited him in and made him a drink, though as he did so, he noticed something was quite off about the church elder. Reportedly, Robert seemed nervous and sweaty, and as they were talking, he seemed distracted and as if he wasn't present. What Stephen didn't know was that Robert had just dumped Tanisha's car in a parking lot before coming straight to his house. However, he hadn't told Stephen that he'd just taken the life of his beloved wife, or that she was even reported as missing. Eventually, Robert left, leaving Stephen what was up with the distracted church elder. The same night, Stephen decided to go on Facebook Live because another man named Dwight T. Lewis asked Stephen how he could be so stupid to have spilled the secrets about a pastor. Same-sex relationships were very much frowned upon in the church and by the religious community, and by revealing that they had been together, Stephen had seriously tarnished Robert's reputation and standing in the church. Not only that, but people started to say that it was Stephen's fault that Tanisha was dead, and if it hadn't been for him revealing the true nature of his and Robert's relationship, she would still be alive today. He might not have directly killed Tanisha, but people started to believe that Stephen played a definite indirect role in her death. This was something that he was not going to stand for, and he took to Facebook Live with an angry and foul-mouthed outburst.
You know you don't want to catch these hands, pussy. You talking all tough under somebody's status, bitch, nigga. Pull up. Nigga, I don't need you to pull up. I'm gonna have my nephew bring me to your house. I'm gonna have my nephew... Hey, what's up, nigga?
Stephen also defended his decision to go to court and testify against Robert, someone that not only had good standing in the community, but also someone he was supposed to have had relations with.
Thought I was doing the right thing because I was inappropriate with Robert. I did have, so I thought I want justice for Tanisha just as well because nobody can understand the way I feel.
Stephen was under the impression that people would have applauded his decision to stand up and do the right thing. He wanted to give Tanisha some justice by being open and honest in court. However, people were still turning against him as if he was the killer himself.
Man, I did her a fucking favor. I testified and being honest so motherfucker could get justice and you just don't come for me. No, what's up? I'm feeling bad because I feel like this woman needs justice for her death and you don't come for me and I didn't testify.
Stephen's frustrations were not unfounded, and he did have a point about trying to do the right thing. He claimed that no one knew what he was going through, and he was trying to make amends for his relationship with Robert. It's clear that Stephen felt a great amount of guilt for the death of Tanisha, and his outbursts, though violent and filled with bad language, were his way of trying to get that feeling of guilt and shame off of his chest.
Swear to God, talking down tonight on my motherfucking mama. That's real talk. Nobody understand what the I'm going through. This woman should not have lost her life, and you bitches gonna cover me, and I'm the one who was honest, who came for it and fucking testified.
But it's the claims that Stephen started making about the church and the other people who went to it that was the most shocking and scandalous thing of all, because he had some pretty big and explosive claims to make. Stephen claimed that those who went to court and defended Robert were actually also involved with him in a sexual way, and that they were defending him because they had some kind of romantic and deeper connection to him. Whether these claims were true or not may never be known, but the truth of the matter is that Stephen was one of the only people to truly open up about Robert, how the two of them were involved, and how he felt about the entire situation. And what could not be denied is that Stephen was being as honest and open as possible. No one could accuse him of lying or trying to hide the truth. He laid it all out, and willingness to get justice for Tanisha, Stephen's life was exposed, and he lost everything. Stephen also talked about how everybody knew that Robert would sleep with anyone and everyone possible, and that he was bisexual. No one questioned it, though, as Robert was too well loved and charismatic, and the community loved him too much. In fact, Stephen knew what Robert got up to, and she was okay with it.
Everybody knew what Robert was doing because so much shit had came out before she married him. She already knew what this doing. I just want somebody to pull up on me.
But there was one more huge twist, a claim that Stephen would make that turned this whole murder case on its head. He claimed that Tanisha was not murdered by Robert because she discovered and disapproved of his relationship with Stephen. If what Stephen said was true, she already knew about it and was okay with it. Apparently, she was murdered so Robert could get his hands on her money, something that she was not short of.
And kill her because of his motherfucking quality. He killed her for money. So why you listen to somebody who then posted one motherfucker?
If this was true, this just added an entirely new motive to the murder, one which the authorities had never even considered. Still, Stephen continued speaking out and ranting about the situation claiming that no one had the right to be mad at him as he exposed no one else's sordid relationships with Robert, instead taking the blame himself in order to get justice for Tanisha.
Everybody who was f***ing Robert in that church ought to thank me, bitch, because I didn't put nobody else's name out there. Nobody. I took the motherfucking hit because I don't lie about my sexuality. So everybody in that motherfucking church that was f***ing Robert ought to thank me.
At this point, Stephen had gone outside and was streaming his video in the street. Stephen continued streaming as he explained the situation to them.
I want justice for this woman just like the next, just like her mama do, just like her daddy do, just like her sisters do. And I testify, I'm the only one that came out and was honest about what was going on. And then people are coming for me when I'm trying to get justice too. They got me all twisted in the game. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm done.
After posting the video to Facebook, Stephen asked his followers to share it and spread the word about what Robert was truly like and why he had murdered Tanisha. Some people did and defended Stephen's right to speak out, while others chastised him and told him that he should have spoken out before Tanisha's untimely death. Ultimately, though, when it came to Robert's court battle, he entered a plea of not guilty. He was adamant that he did not kill Tanisha, but the jury and the judge were not convinced, and after deliberations were over, Robert was sentenced to 50 years in prison without the possibility of parole. Justice had been done on Robert, and Stephen had spoken his truth and been honest about his relationship with the church elder. But despite this, none of this would ever bring Tanisha back, and that is the biggest tragedy of all.